Hey Slim, what's the deal, baby?
Making this money.
You bet, check this out. It's going down over on the south. Somebody come over there on the north. Scoop you up. Ain't they told it? Still put it down. Still swinging and banging, huh? Boys gon' feel this, man. Boys gon' feel it. What?
What it do, guys? So it's about time I'm coming around to actually like do this video, especially with like the times I thought I had a chance and then just like other shit be getting in the way and stuff, and then like I have to go out and like take care of business and stuff, or like just other things that just come around and stuff that I took the time to put into instead of like this. But this is something that I've always had in the back of my head to really get back around. And I've been really in my own thought process as to like, what would be the next thing that I would really like talk about and stuff. Whether or not I would follow up on like some of the things that I said previously, or to move forward into the next step of things. But I'm going to be doing a bit of both. Because, there are some things that I previously said that I felt like there were certain aspects to things that I feel like were missing. Because a lot of what I said tended to be more shining the light on the more negative aspects of like my own experience with things. And of course, you see the yin and the yang and stuff. Like, what I'm all about is like, the name Infinite is not just, a name and stuff. It's to represent everything and all in between and stuff, everything is in reality and stuff, good or bad and stuff, which is why I have the yin and the yang, even though infinite and this don't really exactly correlate on the same meaning. But there are aspects to life in which I do tend to see like a duality of like both the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the right and wrong. It's just something I think also naturally society is conditioned to like view the world as and stuff. Especially it's hit me too, considering like the background that I originally grew up from. But what I tend to lead with more is like the aspects that, or a view of life which, supersedes this. But until we get to that point, I'm going to be walking you guys through like, something that's a lot more familiar and, simpler for you all. Because if I were to take you immediately up there, like none of y'all would really get what I'm trying to like convey as a message and stuff, But I had a sliver a few moments to where I really expressed what I'm all about, and all of it's gonna lead up to anyway. So by the end, we'll see how far I really get into this shit. But a bit of background as to like what I had like formulating in my own head before I started to record and stuff. It's I already mentioned that I've kind of been easing off the game a bit, or fighting games period. To a lesser extent, at least, I have been playing around just a bit, but I've allowed myself to use more of my own free time to like kind of enjoy my day-to-day life and stuff, or enjoy my life outside of like work too, like go outside and stuff, maybe go to the beach and stuff, travel around, shop, like normal like casual shit. Allow myself to really like live a more casual human experience and stuff, versus just like sitting in a chair and just grinding out hours on Street Fighter Ranked or like some shit like that, and having less attention be focused on like bracket performance and stuff. Even though I will say that the past Sunday I actually did go to an event, but As I mentioned and stuff, usually what really matters in the inside is like your own intention when you do go out to these things or interact with any like anything pretty much in life, you know, your own intention and why you decide to participate in certain things really matters and stuff. And a lot of that has shifted since like you know, the videos in which I made like the topics and stuff, so like roughly around 2 to 3 weeks ago by now, especially since I got done like ranking up to like Ultimate Master, like there's been a huge like mental shift in me to just kind of like go pace myself a lot slower when it came to like the fighting game stuff. And as of now, I've really got a chance to like really digest what's been going on with everything, even a lot more now, because I'm realizing a lot of what I went through was pretty much like autopilot and stuff. And even now, like it just feels normal to just like hop on and play and stuff, and not really give a damn about time. And that's something that's been built up since like the Dragon Ball days and stuff. And I've been trying to like ease off a bit, you know. And it's actually been working and stuff, you know. But the reason why I'm bringing this all up is because like I really noticed like how my own like attitude towards like myself and the outside world around me has really like changed. Because like as I've mentioned before, like I was definitely leaning a lot more towards the competitive aspect of things, even a bit into like Street Fighter 6 too, which like it's no stranger that I've clearly like been going to like offline brackets and stuff, and I've been entering these events like amongst like some of our local like strongest players and stuff. And it was just like I was just in a different headspace, you know. And but even then I already had mentioned that when before Street Fighter 6 was around, that specific like headspace of mine was magnified like, you know, tenfold and stuff. Like it had got to a point to where I really started to like judge myself based on like, you know, how I actually like performed within game to a much higher degree and stuff. And it reminded me of a video that I actually watched on Brian F's channel, where he had like a interview with Rob TV. Yeah, I know y'all know who Brian F is and Rob and stuff if y'all are into the Street Fighter scene. And they had talked about something that really just like hit home and stuff. And it's like, damn, I know exactly what this dude is talking about and shit, because it's shit that I went through also. And that's why I actually have this clip right here, and I might as well let him do the talking and stuff.
Older,
bro.
The low isn't worth it as much anymore.
I'm goddamn, bro. My lowest moment as a competitor was off camera, and I like damn near hated myself, bro. Like, because my self-worth was so tied to results. Like, I had real depression. Like, I remember I was at NA regional finals, and I forgot who I beat, but then I had to play Idom. I'm using God at this time, and I think Idom. Basically, I beat Idom the first game, and then Idom beat me the second game. But for the only time ever, like right then and there, we playing the match off streaming pools, and I said something like, "Rob, you fucking stupid, bro. What the fuck?" Like something like that. Like I was out verbally, like he had to hear me, you know. And then of course he goes and he beats me. So he beats me, and this tournament was in DC, the NA regional finals. I don't know if you remember, Brian.
Right.
And it was that stadium seating.
Yeah, I was there.
In the stadium. Yeah, so I went and sat up in the stands, and I'm just goddamn like, I think, hold Was I okay? Yeah, I was over there depressed as hell. Like fuck, bro. Like I'm like damn ready to end this shit, bro. Like I'm done. Then I remember this dude. I can't remember your name right now, bro. But he came over to me, and he like, hey, bro, something like some fan, like hand on my shoulder or something. I'm just like crying, bro, like straight crying, and he like physically, like I'm crying, and he's like, man, he's like, bro, you inspire a lot of people, bro. Don't quit XYZ. But there, and I think like First Attack Puerto Rico, I was like, damn, I was damn near, not to be too dark, but just to get y'all the real, like I was ready to fucking like damn near jump off the roof out that motherfucker, like dead ass, because I felt like stupid, like I felt dumb, like bro, how is these dudes able to? And in the future, I ended up getting a lot stronger than I was at that moment. But I remember what helped me a lot. I talked to Tokido, and I was like, bro, Tokido, I was like, everybody always calls you a genius. Like, are you a genius, like legitimately? And he's like, no. He's like, you know, I'm not gonna try to do his accent because that's racist, but he just basically said that he was like, Margo used to destroy me in Street Fighter 4. He told me that all these players, Daigo, everybody used to beat his ass. Some of his trash anti-airs and shit, which we always clown him about and everything. But him bringing up all his failures and shit helped me out a lot. But yeah, that for me personally, I believe that you can't, bro. Hot take. A lot of these, I don't think greatness is possible without that darkness in you. My humble opinion. I don't want to, you know. But the same way I was able to get so low to be depressed and think I wasn't shit as a human and shit, which is bad, but that is the only reason I leveled up so fast. I think Brian might be one of the only people who really know how quick the shit really happened because he played me in that one event and how fast it happened. But it's because as that I care that much. So I think one of the reasons why you have a lot of players who are only decent or who are just very good forever is because the mentality. I think they're too friendly. Not in a Noah the Prodigy ass way. Oh, you're too soft. Not like that, but like they've accepted people being stronger than them. Oh, I lost, but oh, that's Daigo, or oh, that's Punk, or oh, XYZ. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe none of that shit. If anything, I hate y'all ass when it's time to play. Fuck y'all. So that's the mode that I'm in, and it helped me, you know. But yes, that makes me feel dark. I never feel those dark ways nowadays.
Right.
So he pretty much summed up everything that like I've experienced too, especially like when it came to like when I lost and stuff. It made me feel like dumb. Like he said, I've had those moments too, to where shit really like got to me and stuff. And you know, by the time that 6 was around and stuff, I mostly like backed out of that kind of mindset because I knew like it wasn't really healthy to like be in that state of mind to where like I allowed something to like get to me so personally and internally and stuff. It's just not good for you, you know. And but even in 6, like I'm not gonna lie when I said that there were a few times when I did enter some brackets and stuff, and you know, some of my losses were definitely not I wasn't necessarily taking it well, but not to the point to where I'd seen like people like, you know, slam their sticks on the ground and like completely like yell out fucking shit, you know. Like it never got to that point. But I definitely had the taste of irritation in my mouth, and like I was definitely steaming a bit in the back of my head, but for the most part I did keep my cool and stuff, and those were very like few occasions that I could count on like one hand. But you know, that's just something that naturally happens when you step into any competitive avenue and stuff. It's something that you know, you just have to learn to deal with and stuff. And like my advice to some of y'all who are still in that like headspace and stuff, like have something that will be able to relax you from that, like when you do get those periods and when you enter like a fit of rage and stuff. Have something that is strong enough to relax you, that to put you down and stuff, that's effective enough, I should say, to be able to like relax your head and cool down a bit. Because like, you know, you don't want to be in that like dark space to where like he even said like he was wanting to jump off a fucking roof. Like that shit's not good, and it's also not, it's not really, it's not even healthy to like grow as a person, even when you're trying to like become a better player and stuff. And even though you do need a sense of like, you know, conflict from within, I should say, you need to have some kind of irk, but like there's always like a equilibrium that you should have with these things, because like if you let it get too far off and like build too much, like you build all that tension back and stuff, it's, dude, it'll do you more harm than good. Believe that, man. Like believe that. That's why like I think this is a perfect representation of like everything that I'm talking about right now, because like while there is, you know, a side to everything that is like completely dark and stuff, like there's always a light at the end of this tunnel and stuff. And even then, when all things are like that may appear like sunshine and rainbows and stuff, there's always some small little like imperfection to like, you know, balance it all together, which is why I think that this yin and yang actually is the perfect symbol for like the thing that I'm talking about right now. And to even get deeper into this and stuff, like I think this also can be looked at in a way to where like, you know, let's say this side is on the more like represents the competitive aspect to the fighting gamer's like journey to becoming like a top level player or some shit, you know. You first start out here and stuff, and then you decide to like, you want to level up to like the next level of like skill. So you enter this opening right here, which is the dark hole, into the void or the abyss, whatever you want to call it, of the unknown, to like the next level above you that, you know, you're not equipped or aware, or you don't know what's out here and stuff. You don't know how to like navigate or play in this current level of like whatever game that you're playing and stuff, you know. So in the darkness, of course, you can't see what's around you and stuff. You don't know whether or not you're going up and down, hitting the walls here and there. A lot of it needs like a lot of that journey will be like consisted of like, you know, your own like little creative experimentation with things. But you know, there are things to kind of help you to help guide you into like, you know, the light, towards the light at the end of the tunnel, which is represented by this circle right here. And that can be like other players who, you know, are at that level that you're trying to reach, and they're helping you guide, like they're guiding you to a to the level above and stuff. But you know, the majority of the journey is a lot more personal and stuff, so you're gonna have to go through the void, the abyss of like the unknown and stuff, until you get closer and closer, and you eventually reach the point to where you actually manage to reach the light at the end of the tunnel right here. And then once you go exit, you know, this whole abyss right here, you now enter into the world of the known and stuff, you know, everything that is, you know, in the light and able to be seen with the metaphorical naked eye, you know, the third eye, if you will, if you want to refer to that. Or, you know, you could put it as in like anything, use any words that you want to refer to this on a metaphorical sense, you know. And then like, of course, like since there's always like another level above, you see that there's another hole yet to explore, or patch, whatever you want to call it. Then you enter this again, and then the whole journey, like, you know, starts over again in a field which is much harder than the last one too. And then eventually, like, you know, you hit the point, process repeats, rinse and repeat again and stuff, you know. It's something that I've definitely felt like the journey has been, especially with Street Fighter. It just seemed like every other time it just gets harder and harder and harder, despite me getting better and better and better. Like, it's the reason why I've been needing to just kind of step away to like get myself together, you know. So that's where this comes into play and stuff. And you know, you could use like other things to kind of represent everything that I've kind of been trying to convey using this metaphorically. Like I know a lot of players who are actually invested into this like with a religious like I guess mindset to it all and stuff. Like one guy I know, he's a Muslim, like shout out to Tropic and stuff, you know. You know, he's actually someone who's really like dedicated to like the game and stuff, and he actually ties in a lot of his own like Islamic beliefs into it, and he's been actually killing it in the scene and stuff. So you know, these things really do like help and stuff, you know. Like if you are a, you know, a player and stuff who wants to improve, like it's it'll definitely help if it helps you like you know, tie in some of your own like religious wisdom into things, you know. Me myself, I'm not necessarily the most like religious of people. I tend to fall into a more like spiritual category and stuff, but you know, I tend to find like truth and wisdom in all things and stuff. So so I definitely like pay attention and listen to a few things and stuff. But you yourself can choose whether or not you want to pick up on someone else's, like pick a few things off of like someone else's book, or like just stick to your own and stuff. However, I like to hear everybody out and stuff, just because I do believe that everyone has something to offer and stuff, you know. But that's just me personally. And of course, like the journey here is like what he described to be a very like intense and dark like place that, you know, it's not at all, you know, a walk in the park. It's not fun at all, dude. Like even at some points I start like it there's a reason why I keep bringing up how like it got me to the point to where I can't even enjoy my favorite game of all time, which is Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like I still love that game, and to me it's still like my all-time favorite fighting game and stuff, but I can't even play it, dude, just because of like how much, you know, I've been, how many hours, how much time I spent, you know, approaching the game in this aspect to where like I'm just like completely done with it all, you know. It's exhausting, dude. It changes you. It takes a toll on you. And yes, it can change you in a good way and stuff, but also like there's negative aspects to it, which I've already discussed before and stuff, you know. Or more so in my case, it's been like my aspect and how I view it is definitely like been a lot more, it's been soured because of the fact that I went at it, I approached it in a very intense form, to where I don't think I could ever like recover at this point from it. But that's really my own fault in the end. I've actually spoken to someone over the weekend about it who's actually had a similar like approach and journey, and he said he's actually been able to manage it a lot better, knowing how to pace himself here and there. I was not fortunate in that sense, so I allowed myself to kind of like, you know, like dry out like the amount of like motivation and like just life I had to like ever even like play or touch the game, which I've tried a few times, and I felt nothing for it. Like that's how bad it was. And for you it may be different though. Like maybe you haven't exactly reached that point and you're wanting to go through like this circle to really like come to willing to suffer, because a lot of this journey there will be periods of like suffering and stuff, and then you go through this abyss and you you start to face the challenges that that it comes with, and deal with the consequences that come by when you do make mistakes here and there, and you lose the battles and stuff on your way all the way up here and stuff. Like, this represents like the one single win that you need to like reach this point right here, when everything else around is just loss after loss after loss after loss, and like it all has to like, it all will build up until you end up reaching that point, or you fall out entirely and give up, which it's only meant for the really strong-willed individuals that are able to make that climb towards a legendary status. You know, there's a reason why there's a very few select individuals that are up there, and the rest of us are looking down from below, like at these people who are professionals, who are world class at whatever craft that they're doing and stuff, you know. But, you know, putting that aside, right? You know, when I approach these things and stuff, I always treated it not in the sense to where, not always to where I was like, you know, walking down a tunnel and stuff into the light at the end, but I also put it in a frame of mind to where I was, you know, this individual right here, looking from within and towards the things that made me blind and ignorant to like what was exactly happening on screen and stuff. What were the things that exactly were not, that I was not seeing, that allowed me to, that would prevent me from being allowed to like reach a certain level and stuff. Or that's the approach that I took things as. Maybe you could call it a lot more of a Buddhist, like Eastern Asian style of like, you know, spirituality, I don't know, and stuff. But that's what got me to like improve, and not even in the fighting game shtick alone. Like, it's something that I've developed even when I was in like the martial arts like field. And you know, what the way I tend to see things, even though like my entire understanding of reality itself goes beyond it, but you know, I tend to like use this formula that there is a positive and negative side to us that are constantly like existing within all of us and stuff. You know, there's a inner Shaolin monk, I would say, that's a lot more stoic, a lot more calm, a lot more composed, and a lot more stable, right? And then there is a demonic side to us, so which is the embodiment of like the chaotic parts that exist within us and stuff, that want to conquer, control, and change the environment around us, versus one that prioritizes like being more adaptive to the environment and stuff. And in my belief, it's like, you know, we have to find a way to come together and unify both in order to reach a state of balance to where we are able to deal with every issue that's thrown at us at hand and stuff, you know. At least that's what has helped me in my own journey and stuff, and the approach I had within like life that's gotten me, you know, much wiser and much more much wiser and much better as an individual and stuff, for whatever it is that I was aiming at the time. And what was it? It slipped past my mind just now. I'm pretty sure it'll come back and stuff. And you know, it's always, to me, like, I also tend to look at the things that, you know, are reflected when we do take a look at, you know, the pieces and sides of ourselves that exist in one or the other category and stuff. So when it comes to this chaotic demon, and which is I guess you could call it the ego side of yourself too, in a way. But a lot of this is where we tend to experience things such as guilt, grief, hate, envy, jealousy, regret, and fear. And another thing to note too is that what also falls in line here is a connection that I made thinking about it too as I was making it. Like, these things tend to be, you know, the aspects of ourselves that we also like to keep in the dark and stuff, you know. These are not things that you immediately see out of a person right away when you interact with whether a single person, many people, or like you yourself are not like, you know, choosing to express these things into the open world and stuff, because these are things that are a lot more like personal to us, you know, like our own fears, the things that we hate and stuff, the things that make us feel like guilty, the things that, you know, cause us to feel envious or jealousy, and the things that we regret in life, you know. These are things that we literally keep in the dark and stuff, you know, and we tend to suffer more in silence. We choose to suffer in silence about these things because this is not really received well when you know, expose these things in the open world and stuff. Like, you know, human beings are not known to like gravitate towards like negative people who only radiate this kind of energy and stuff, and who only expresses. There are a few, like, that's not to say that there aren't people who aren't like open about like the things that they fear when they feel hate and jealousy, envy, guilt, all these things. It's just not something, like I said, that's commonly and more openly like exposed into the world from people, because of the fact that they are the more vulnerable parts of ourselves, and it's not at all like socially like attractive, you know. Like, no one is, we would rather hang around like this guy versus like this guy right here, you know. It's just like human nature and stuff. But, you know, even in the dark abyss of it all, there's always a piece of light in the end right there to complete the balance and stuff. And of course, like, how much of what one person really like expresses on each of these like characteristics, which is only a fraction of like what really goes on and what humans are really capable of. Let me drink some water. All of this can vary. Like, some people are probably more prone to be jealous individuals. Some are more prone to be hateful. Some are more prone to be like fearful and stuff, you know. That's all uniquely based on like who we're talking about and stuff. So you may be more of one than the other, and the other person next to you can be the opposite and stuff, you know. And then we move into like the more positive aspects of ourselves, to where we're more, you know, these are things that are a lot more like expressed on the superficial level, but these things aren't necessarily rooted on a superficial like plane, you know. These things still come from within at the same level that these things are rooted in and stuff, you know. But these things are a lot more openly shown in the public and stuff. You know, our sense of like love, our sense of joy, contentment, courage, and confidence and stuff, all things are fueled from a positive like sense of self from within. And of course, like, this exists more on the light side of things because of the fact that, you know, people enjoy a lot more positive energy being thrown out into the world and stuff. It's what attracts, you know, good things in life, good people. Like, it's what people naturally gravitate towards and stuff, you know, as like social creatures and stuff. It's important to have like some of these things when building like relationships and stuff. And it's of course like good for oneself to have like a positive, healthy sense of oneself, so that you're able to like, you know, function and stuff for your own, like, just for your own self, you know. But of course, like I said, all of these things exist in the same individual, you know, and they all must come together congruently in order to form you and stuff right here. That's what creates the circle, the balance of it all, which is why too that even in spite of like all the darkness, there's a bit of light at the end, and in spite of all the good, the positive, the light in the world, there's always some small little like imperfection here that, you know, makes it all complete at the same time. So once again, also like this is all just a fraction of what can exist on like the more positive end of things, and you know, the amount that people express themselves in is variable between like each individual. So let's say now, where does these things also fall into the process of like when you start to want to go out and like improve and stuff, you know, like the same, like if we were to look back into when I described this as like the circle path, and where you enter like the void and into the journey onto the other end of the tunnel to where the light shines, and it's a completely new level of life to where it's higher than the last and stuff. Where does all this fall in and stuff? Well, I already described, like, to me, this is where you enter like the void of your own like dark self that you don't show out to the world and stuff, facing your own demons, if you will, if that's what you want to put it as. And the way that I kind of viewed my own journey and stuff was like I tackled the pieces of me that tend to be on the more like tended to be on the more negative aspects, to where it wasn't reflecting how I wanted to like progress or end up being, especially when it came to like fighting games, like certain mind states here and there, certain ways of like certain habits of like living and stuff, like things like that didn't align with like what I wanted. But once again, it can go even outside of like the fighting game shtick, you know, like let's say you're not into like the video game shit and stuff, you know, sitting down and like playing games is like not at all like progressive. Like let's say if you're trying to be like a world-class like athlete or something, you know. So this to you then, like from your perspective, like involving yourself in these activities are actually demonic to you and stuff, you know. These are on the bad end of things, you know. But you know, that's all based on like also your own perception of it, and how you manage it, and whether or not you allow it to like affect you in a certain type of way. Because like let's say, you know, you're on a day off and stuff, and you're just trying to sit and relax, playing like a fighting game. Well, I don't know anyone who would play a fighting game to relax, but playing video games can be a bit of a break and help you ease off of things, you know. It can be on a positive end too, you know. It's all just how you take it in and stuff. But let's go back to like in the eyes of like a competitor and stuff, you know. What I tend to see as like a distraction and stuff was definitely one of the things that I will say is like the amount of like honestly, it mostly came down to like the shit I would hear like just with the media in general when it came to like fighting games and stuff. Like I'm not the type of dude anymore to like even look at like tier lists and stuff, just because like you know, because tier lists are very fixed. They're fixed beliefs about certain characters, and that it's already rooted based on like that certain individual's like perception of the entire game, to where like, you know, you're allowing something, like a lot of people do this I see it all the time, dude. They look at a tier list and like they really do treat it as like definitive and stuff. They allow it to like, you know, they accept that truth as like their own truth and stuff, versus like allowing themselves to really like, you know, see for themselves whether or not they agree that a certain character really is like, you know, strong or viable, or like, you know, as busted as they say to them and stuff, you know. Like, to me, I'm just like an individual who would rather like see things for myself and like take things in my own hands and really like play with the Rubik's Cube and stuff and see what I get out of it, versus like allowing someone to tell me and then I just completely like, you know, accept it for what it is. I gotta see shit for myself. So I really do try to not, I tend to do my best to like avoid, I'm just more conscious about like the type of individuals I hear certain pieces of information from, because of like also who they are as a person and stuff, and where their own beliefs are stemming from, you know. Because a lot of people in this scene, to be honest, like a lot of, we all know what this is, come on now, like there's a lot of people who just trash some characters just to trash them and stuff, to be honest, you know. And some people, like, you know, people are always going to argue about like, oh, these guys are like down players of like some, like Ken for example. Like people will constantly like trash anybody who says anything critical about Ken, because like they all don't know how to play against him, and they all think that he's forever like a god tier character, even though, to be honest, y'all might give me shit for this, but Ken is not at all a busted character. That's a whole nother discussion, dude. Like, but you know, if I say anything about him and stuff, it's always like, you know, corner carry from one combo and stuff, blah blah blah, and then throw loops, blah blah blah, like busted character, blah blah blah. It's like, I just stopped paying attention to it anymore, because a lot of it is just people rehashing like things that other people have said that they've been conditioned to say, versus like them actually like, you know, taking the time to take the characters into their own hands and understanding what exactly this guy's all about. Why is it exactly that he's able to get away with certain things, and at what level of skill that they're at, that things are working and stuff. It's a whole bunch of shit, you know. So there's just so many variables in between that we don't even see out of these people who are talking about like certain character strengths and weaknesses or perspectives on the game that, you know, none of us have ever really experienced, especially if we're listening to individuals who are on a certain level, especially like when it comes to top players and stuff. You know, we can't even fathom why they may find one thing to be like strong or one thing to be weak. You just have to see things for yourself in the end. So I just try and be careful with like, you know, information that's thrown out there. I tend to like, if I hear something, I'll go look into it myself, is what I'm trying to say, you know. There's a certain like quote and stuff that I wanna leave y'all with when it came in regards to that. Studies show thyself approve. That is the exact like mind state you guys need to like apply to yourselves and stuff. If you really want to be like a high level, top level like individual and stuff, at some point you have to be willing to be your own guide in this dark abyss, and like, you know, be the forefront and be the leader of yourself in order to like bring yourself into the light at the end of the tunnel and stuff, and decide whether or not some things are, you know, are beneficial to you or not, you know. Study, show thyself approve. That's something that I live by on all aspects of life. So let's say then now you're ready to take on that journey and stuff, you know. And you're you know, here come in the abyss, and you're confronting your demons for possibly like the first time ever and stuff. And from your end, like, you know, because of the fact that these are issues that, you know, tend to reflect on, that are fueled by things that we fear, that we hate, jealous, the things that make us feel this, we tend to perceive these things as like issues that are much bigger than who we are currently and stuff, you know. These are things that we don't understand, you know. But our whole goal in the end is to find a way to like overcome these things and to become an individual that is able to overstand the current issue that you are dealing with, you know. Give me a second. Keep getting messages and stuff. Right. And so you do your thing, and you know, start to duke it out with the demon and stuff, only to find out that you are not at all like equipped to like fly through these things as, you know, fast as you may want to and stuff, and you get your ass handed to you. Like, this is your current demon bitch slapping you in the face right here. And there's, you know, your cheek, you got hit right here, and you're being flown across the room, right? And you get your ass handed to you like a numerous amount of times, up until the point to where you are, you know, splattered all over the floor, on the ground, blood on the wall and stuff, eyes swollen, like bruised up, bleeding, legs, arms, back broken and stuff. And it doesn't look good. And there will be points like to where you will like, you know, be in this position right here. Maybe not literally like physically and stuff, but mentally, like it can feel like this, you know. And no, it does not feel good at all. Like, you know, you're, especially like to your ego, none of this like feels good at all and stuff. But it's necessary for you to grow as a individual, thus the player part of you too, the player aspect of your brain. And you know, your problems only start to like get bigger and bigger and stuff. The more as time passes by that you're not able to like find a solution to them, you know, or it may appear as so, you know, it can appear to be that way, and your issues are forever coming forth towards you right in your face and stuff, because there are things in life that we just cannot avoid, and sometimes life will throw shit at you. Sometimes life will like throw shit at you, and you have to like, you know, do something about it on the spot and stuff, you know. It's something that nor I nor anybody else around me can avoid, you know. And these issues will be forever present in front of you and stuff, and forever like impose a shadow upon you, even when you're still like in the pool of your own blood and stuff, still beaten up, like looking from down up towards your problems and stuff, because still to you like these issues tend to appear bigger than what they really are. And we'll get to the end on why I keep saying that and stuff, you know. And like I said, there will be points where you can't avoid it and stuff, and they, you know, grab a hold of you and stuff and force you into a situation in which it looks like you have nothing else but to find a solution, or else it's like GG's and stuff, you know. And for some reason and stuff, you know, it's not even something that I can describe it and stuff, but there would be periods in where, like, you know, I would be so like broken down, or like or I would just be so fed up with everything to where, like, there's some part of my brain that just says, like, fuck it and stuff, you know? And then, like, an idea comes around, and somehow it's just like, I just understand what needs to be done at the very moment, and I start to put it all into action and stuff, you know? And, you know, I then, you know, execute the solution and stuff, you know? And yes, this is a play on Popeye and stuff. I couldn't find anything else. I don't know. I just wanted to be corny and include this and stuff, you know? And, you know, you eventually, like, get to a point to where you are now able to, you know, take on the challenges that were preventing you from moving up on ahead into a higher level of, like, life and stuff, you know? And this is you right now. You are now ginormous. You overstand finally the issues that have been beating you down currently and stuff. And this is you, a Wooga motherfucker. Like, you are ready now to just, like, demolish everything in your path, and everything that deemed to be, like, as high as, like, the China Wall now is as small as, like, a rabbit on the ground and shit. And then, like, you know, your own demons can't run from you forever either. It's only a matter of time until, like, boom, you win and stuff, and, like, cram, motherfucker, you finally did it. You finally beat your demons and stuff, and you know, you're happy and stuff. Woohoo, I did this shit, you know? But it's a lot more than just, like, you now being able to, like, celebrate and say these words. You've now become an individual who is a lot more wiser and stuff, and become more enlightened in the realm of the darkness and stuff. You are now this circle right here, and you are able to transform everything around you into this, until you reach a point, until you now find another speck of darkness, and it's another void that you have to go through the same process of. And it's something that we do in life over and over and over again. But some people just, like, run away from it all and stuff, you know? But even then, like, life will always, like, throw itself at you and find a way to grab its hands onto you, and you gotta make a choice from here. Like, what is it that you're gonna do about whatever it is that you're dealing with at the moment? You got to do something and stuff. And, you know, it's, you know, a forever going process and stuff, until, like, once again you are victorious and stuff, and then in just a matter of time, like, the next big bad threat comes around, and you are now, you know, having to, like, go through that same process as I mentioned to defeat the next biggest and baddest threat in your life. Disney's Corey in the house. So that's pretty much the gist of, like, everything I wanted to, like, discuss and stuff. It's it kind of is like a third parter to, like, everything that I've talked about so far when it comes to, like, the more internal aspects of, like, you know, what you go through, what you tend to experience when in this, like, competitive field or mind state and stuff. I want to make this kind of like the end of that aspect of things, especially because I talked more about the more negative aspects of it, because it's something that I don't see many people really, like, talk about, or at least talk about it with a certain angle and depth to it and stuff, that I believe it's very important and stuff that people really get to know, because, you know, as I already mentioned, like, there are things on a much more superficial scale that we already have to invest in like money here and there, time and stuff, but people don't really take a look at like, you know, how much, you know, of you have to put through, like, you know, how much of yourself you have to, you know, throw yourself into the gutters of like the dark underworld of things in order to come out and become a much more refined individual who's able to play at a more like higher level and stuff, or a professional level, whatever it may be and stuff, you know. Pros are on their own like speed when it comes to this shit, you know. But as far as like where I stand with things right now, I definitely tend to be, I'm definitely like ruminating in this more like positive space at the moment, just because I need to give myself some time to like, you know, recover from things and stuff. And I haven't touched much of the game at all recently. I probably played it 3 times in the past like 2 weeks and stuff. I played yesterday and stuff, but that was only in like the battle hub. But there's not really anything in the back of my head to hop on ranked and really grind it out and stuff. But even so, with all that, like, let's see, start GG. Ali 22, there it is. Like this right here, as I mentioned, like I went into a offline event and stuff, right? And much to my surprise, like I actually came out 4th out of like 37, which is, of course, it's not like a combo breaker, a CEO type major, but I actually broke my own previous record of like how high I placed in the alley tournaments out in like DC and stuff. Because, you know, my average usually tended to be like top 8 or like top 5, but I mean, this is still within top 5, but now I'm at, my highest peak would be 5th place, but now it's 4th. So, you know, like it just came as a shock to me because of the fact that I didn't approach it at all with like a with my more demonic like competitive mind state. Even then, when I've said like it started to like die down a lot more, but at this point it's kind of completely dissipated, I'd say. Maybe not entirely, but I just don't have, it just doesn't seem to be like the majority of like where my headspace is at, as much as before, where like it had a good piece, a good chunk of my head was still in that headspace to where I wanted to like dominate and like, you know, be the best at whatever it is I was doing. Nowadays I just don't care. Like approaching this bracket and stuff, I really did not expect like I really wasn't even expecting to like win one game, which might be, honestly, even saying that was like really like selling me. I was really underselling myself, because like, you know, usually round 1 first match tends to be free, at least when you have a certain like baseline of skill and standard. Like your first game usually tends to be the one that's almost like guaranteed and stuff that you win. And I've actually won, like this is a good like win percentage and stuff. I want to see how my seed was. Is there a way to see this? Attendees, where's brackets? Seventh. So I did beat my seed. Cause, all right. So yeah, that's Actually, really good. Actually, my seed was still pretty high into like 7th place because at these tournaments I always like land 5th or 7th. Yeah, it all like worked out in the end, and like even when like I was at the venue and stuff, like I didn't even play casuals with like the folks in between my matches or after either. Like my whole mindset was really just around to like kind of like talk with the crew and stuff, you know. It's something I've always done, but like now, like even being there, like the whole bracket was completely like out of my head. When I was talking to like some of the guys who were like staff there TOing, the other competitors and like the commentators too and stuff, you know. And even when I got done with one of my matches, like one of the guys had said like, you know, you played good and stuff, and I'm like, I didn't really like my own performance. And that was true. Like I felt like I was playing a lot more sloppier than how I usually would, which already is kind of, you know, gonna be the thing, especially since I don't go to much offline events as the rest of the guys do nowadays. But you know, that's not to make an excuse for myself, you know. I still ended up here, and whether I landed at like 37th place or not, all of this would be entirely on me at the end of the day, you know. And you know, I'm so glad I went there, and I actually did surprise myself with this. It's almost like even when I've put myself out of this headspace, you know, like rolling with just this in mind has been enough to like get me up to a point, even when my intentions are like different and stuff, you know. Especially when like other individuals that I've beaten definitely expressed a lot more of how much of a personal mission they had to perform at this bracket. Like I'm not gonna out who, but one of the guys definitely, they told me that he was pretty pissed that he lost to me, which it is what it is. It's not the first time it's happened. Kind of feel bad, but it's just the nature of like these games and stuff, you know. So yeah, dude, like from here on out, I have no personal mission of mine to make anything out of the offline scene in my own like personal results with anything. It may look good on paper and Start GG and stuff, but you know, the day in which I managed to reach the level that this guy is playing on, or those of like Punk, the Menas, the fucking Knuckle Dudes, like I said, y'all can have that shit. Like I'm enjoying my life, going out and like just, you know, enjoying the world and stuff, you know. Especially like heading out to the beaches and stuff, like that shit's fun. The times I gone fishing has been fun. Like it's just things like that, you know. Getting to really relax and enjoy life is something that I would actually encourage even a lot of you guys to like go out and experience, just cause like, especially with this fucking game, Street Fighter, how stressful that shit can be. Dog, you gotta have like a vacation at some point from this shit. But that's pretty much, yeah, everything I got. I'm hoping a lot of this like really like hits you guys deep from within, to really get to see things for like how they can be, how they are, and like, you know, assess from there what are the steps that you need to take, but not only for like, you know, your own performance and stuff, but for you as like the individual, you know. I have a lot of like faith in people. It may be delusional to like, maybe to a delusional extent, but I know that based on some of the things that some of you guys had commented on the other videos and stuff, that a lot of you had really appreciated some of like the own pieces of like wisdom I had to offer. And hopefully this time around, like, you guys can piece together a few bits of my own like words in order for you guys to really like construct something that can help you guys out in whatever you guys want to do in your journey. And that's really what this whole thing is all about and stuff, because you know, there's a very infinite amount of possibilities in the world that can happen. And you know, the ones that I tend to choose tend to be one that's more in like constructing and building like the individual from within and manifesting that towards the outworld world. But you know, the piece of the individual from within is one that I wanna the one that I wanna bring out tends to reflect mostly like this right here, you know, versus like that. But I'm not ignorant to the fact that this also will exist always, and both must be kept. Both will always exist in synchronicity with each other forever. And I'm just giving my own bits of pieces of wisdom to like help you guys be able to manage like a lot of these things, you know. There's a lot to it that not even I can get with like my own like finite human words, because something that's finite could never truly express, portray, or stand above something that's infinite, you know. Even the name of infinite will never truly paint the picture of something that's unfathomably like so grand, so great. Call it God if you will, call it the universe, spirits, whatever it is. Know that it's out there and know that, damn dude, just like wow. But that's pretty much all I have to say and stuff. Like, hey, from here on out, you know, whatever decision you make from here, make it the best one. And I wish y'all like the best of luck, you know. And this is Infinite 47. I'll be seeing y'all around. Peace.